By the old saying of third time's the charm, these teens prove that they'll go through just about anything for the chance to win $1 million. We joined 15 of the original campers, as well as 2 newcomers, on a trip around the world for this purpose. The twist for this season is that the teens were forced to sing when prompted or risk immediate elimination. This is your official warning for Total Drama Season 3. Hey guys, I'm Brad with Wicked Binge, and this is Total Drama World Tour, least gruesome to most gruesome. The rules. By adding the element of having to sing every episode, we'll be taking into account how it may impact the challenges. Like previous entries, a challenge will be considered if it has a set of rules to be followed in order to complete it. Also, if there are multiple parts, all of them will be ranked together as one. Finally, we'll be excluding any challenges from the Total Drama World Tour Aftermath episodes, as they're considered part of an in-universe show. As the title suggests, we'll be starting with the least gruesome challenges and working our way up to the more difficult and shocking ones. The least gruesome challenge is the Newfoundland challenges. In the first part, competitors navigate their boats to Chris's hometown of Blow Me Down Highlands and are encouraged to catch seafood along the way. The first 2 teams to arrive move on to the second part, while the losing team has to prep all the seafood caught, as well as shuck clams. The second part of the challenge comes in 3 sections: drinking a jug of apple cider vinegar, translating a local phrase spoken by Chris's cousin Shyr, and then having to kiss a cod. The challenge is made easier with the fact that the 3 parts of the second challenge are meant to be done in teams of 2 within one team. Plus, this challenge ends with a reward for the winners. Next is the Alberta challenges. Competitors are tasked with creating a dinosaur skeleton using whatever bones they dig up, along with any crafting supplies they want from the plane. After building their fossils, they have to vote for which other contestant's dinosaur they like best while hooked up to a lie detector electric chair.
Great idea, Chris.
After this, Chris tasks the players with uncovering oil barrels that the interns had mistakenly buried, preventing the plane from taking off. The expanse of the Badlands to dig through and potentially not having something to dig with are the only elements that may make the challenge problematic. Next is the London Challenge. Chris has the teens attempt to catch Jack the Ripper by following a series of clues to his whereabouts. Teams retrieve their first clue by removing the clothes from one of the tower guards in order to find the clue. This then leads them into a torture room, where one player has to be stretched on a rack to open a secret compartment containing the next clue. Throughout this time, the teams are stalked and nabbed by Jack, who's actually feral Ezekiel. This is a fairly harmless scavenger hunt, with a potentially dangerous twist using Zeke, but he clearly doesn't harm any of the players. Coming up next is the Sweden challenges. Teams start the first part by using the materials that they're given to build something, ideally a boat. But Chris intentionally omits this information. After their sailing vessels are put together, teams are supposed to either sail down and retrieve a flag from a buoy, or attempt to sink the opposing team's ship using chef's meatballs. The only risk that comes with this challenge is potentially getting hit with one of the meatballs. After that are the Yukon challenges. The teens are asked to navigate the semi-frozen river, and whoever arrives first gets first sled pick and is the subsequent sled puller for their team. After that, teams must make their way up to a steep peak with their entire team. Falling into the river and developing frostbite seems to be the most dangerous part of challenges, but can be avoided as long as you're careful. The Greece challenge is next. This challenge consists of 4 Olympic-related events, and the team who collects the most medals for their team wins. In the first event, 3 people from each team take each other one-on-one in a wrestling match. Whoever pins their opponent first wins a medal. The second event is retrieving a medal from around the neck of a bear dressed like a bear, with 1 player from each team competing. The third event is a one-on-one hurdles race, fairly standard. And the final tiebreaker challenge sees 1 player from each team don a pair of wings and fly up to a medal that's suspended approximately 30 feet in the air. Fighting a bear or the other players can be fairly difficult depending on strength levels, but the most gruesome part is falling out of the air and the attempts to retrieve the medal in the tiebreaker challenge. Next are the Easter Island challenges. The final 4 are tasked with collecting eggs of a specific color from statues of the previously voted off contestants. After each team collects 3 eggs of their color, they have to make their way through a cavern up to the top of the hill. If any eggs are broken, the player has to go back and retrieve replacements. Traversing the cavern up the hill is potentially dangerous, as Chef rolls large boulders down. In the second part, the final four compete to see who can put all 3 of their eggs into the mother condor's nest. They're tasked with singing while attempting to climb to the nest in hopes that it may, or may not, soothe the mother condor from her aggressive nature. After that are the Japan challenges. In the beginning part of the episode, Harold calls out Chris for his cultural inaccuracies about Japan, prompting Chef to slice the plane door open and all the teens be sucked out.
That's totally a Chinese outfit.
He tasks them with singing about how much they want to live before he decides if he'll rescue them or not. Thankfully, the teens land in a giant bowl of rice at the end of the song. The first part of the challenge has one player from each team get into an oversized pinball to score points, while the rest of their team manipulates the paddles at the bottom. In addition, each player has a panda, with the exception of Sierra for Cody, inside their ball to increase the difficulty. In the second part, the competitors are tasked with creating and directing a commercial for the new candy Chef has created in order to appeal Japanese audiences. Following that are the Paris challenges. Each team is given a statue to recreate and must find its pieces hidden throughout the Louvre Museum. During this time, they're chased by a yeti, a bear, and an angry seal. Most of the pieces can be found in decently accessible places, but one is hidden behind a web of lasers. After all the pieces are collected, they have to be brought to the courtyard and assembled. To determine who's being eliminated, the 2 players on the losing team have to choose another player to make up as a model and send down a runway. Whoever has the worst design will go home. The hardest part of this challenge is definitely the threat posed by the creatures that chase the players through the museum. Otherwise, it's just a scavenger hunt and fashion show. Next are the Niagara Falls challenges. Players wake up to discover that they're free-falling and manage to collect inside swan boats that were falling alongside them before they hit the water. They then discover that they're about to go over Niagara Falls if they don't try to paddle away. Through Cody's promise of a kiss if they survive, Sierra musters enough energy and force to pull them to safety. The challenges begin with all the guys being put into a slot machine and the girls having to pull the lever to see who will be their groom for the challenge. Chris adds a bear as a potential groom to make things more interesting.
Mama needs a new pair of Cody!
After they're all paired up, the guys must navigate the blindfolded girls through an obstacle course to help them reach their wedding dress. After this, grooms must carry their brides while traversing a tightrope that's stretched across Niagara Falls. Pairs are insisted to avoid plummeting into the falls as Chris has filled it with sharks. Once they reach the end of the tightrope, couples must answer trivia questions about Canada to clear customs and win the challenge. If they fail to answer all the questions, they must navigate back to the starting platform. Next are the German Alps challenges. When the players arrive in the Alps, Chris warns them that for their song to sing, they have to whisper it as they're in avalanche territory.
You better keep the singing nice and not loud.
This goes well without a hitch, until Lindsay's recognition of Tyler causes him to scream in excitement. The teens then have to trudge up the mountain to the first part of the challenge. Teens are first tasked with putting meat through a grinder to create a giant sausage to sled on. Due to the size of the giant grinders, Chris warns the players not to accidentally fall in. After this, teams must navigate their sausage down a dangerous mountain path with jagged rocks and dangerous mountain goats. In the second part of the challenge, players are tasked with learning a German slap dance before moving into the competition. While they compete against the other players, they dance on top of a board with panels that will shock the player if they perform a move incorrectly. The shock of the board appears to be fairly painful, and depending on the strength of the opponent, their slap could do some damage as well. The China challenges are next. For the first part of the challenges, competitors have to make it to the end of the Great Wall of China using one of the transportation methods provided. They have to race to one another in order to get first pick. Some make the task rather easy, such as the donkey, bike, or skateboard. However, the Chinese wooden sandals and the pogo stick make the challenge more physically taxing. In addition, Chris planted various explosives along the wall to keep things interesting. They have to cross the finish line before Chris rings the gong to progress to the next challenge. In the second part, the competitors were tasked with eating authentic Chinese cuisine. They have to open their mouths to prove that they completed their dishes completely. Some of the meals, like the donkey meat and starfish, aren't as disgusting, but pale to the kung pao larva and worms with moss. These challenges may exhaust and disgust you, but they're not the worst out there. Our next entry is about the challenges in Jamaica. In the first part of the challenge, the players are tasked with diving in the water to retrieve pirate treasure, aka Chef's gold chains. A simple task, until Chris reveals that the water is home to electric eels and sharks. Whoever nabs the gold first earns an advantage for their team. In the second part, teams must ride on longboards down a rickety track and into an empty pool in pairs. The winners of the previous challenge are the only ones who get to wear helmets, which increases the likelihood of bodily harm for the other teams. Next are the Egypt challenges. In the very first challenge of the series, Chris has the teams make their way to the other side of a pyramid by either climbing up and over it or navigating through it. Whoever goes through the pyramid runs the risk of setting off Barry's booby traps, whereas the teams who climb risk exhaustion and heat stroke. We discover through Chris's attempt to have Duncan, Courtney, and Gwen sing that they've been climbing for nearly 3 hours, which is a long time to be out in the heat. As the teams make their way to the opposite side, they're split into 3 teams and are each given some kind of reward. Next, the teams are tasked with bringing the reward to the Nile River and crossing it, but not before Chris has them sing to soothe several scarabs. The song works until Ezekiel interrupts, angering the Beatles and forcing the players to start running. It takes some time for the teams to traverse the desert to the Nile, but they all eventually make their way there. Once each team has constructed a vessel to cross the river, Chris has the teams sing a reprise to calm the crocodiles chasing them. The first challenge set the standard for how difficult things were going to be for the season. Next is the Safari Challenge in Tanzania. To begin the hunt, the final 5 have to, one by one, collect as many plums as possible, while the other players kick soccer balls at them. After this, each player has to use a cricket bat to hit the plums to break open gourds, which contain equipment for the next part of the challenge. For the safari, they have to hunt down Ezekiel using the tranquilizer balls they earned in the previous part of the challenge. At this point, Ezekiel has become even more feral since his London appearance, now walking on all fours like an animal and posing more of a threat. During this safari, the players run the risk of running into regular dangerous animals like lions and angry baboons. Next are the New York challenges. In the first part of the challenge, the teams climb up the Statue of Liberty to retrieve their team's baby carriage off of one of the spires of her crown. Once the carriage is retrieved, the players must slide down a fireman's pole to the bottom and make their way to Central Park. This challenge sets the gruesome bar high, as the statue is 305 feet tall, so a fall from any point would most definitely injure, if not kill, one of the players. Navigating to Central Park is a challenge, as the teams drive boats through the sewers and are chased by a giant alligator. Once they arrive, one player from each team must retrieve a giant apple inside Turtle Pond, using anything but their hands. After the apple is obtained, the teams must race to the end to win. Coming up is the Amazon Challenge. In this challenge, teams must make their way through the Amazon rainforest all the way to Machu Picchu. Before they enter the forest, they're warned that the forest is home to many dangerous creatures and that they'll have to camp along the path at dusk to avoid them. Chris also warns the players about a native tribe known as the Zing-Zings, who have never made contact with other humans, and tells the teams to avoid them at all costs. It's revealed through conversation between Chef and Chris that travel through the forest is an 18-hour affair.
Hop, skip, and a jump from here, plus 18 hours.
At one point through the journey, the teams must use a zip line to cross over a body of water filled with piranhas. The first team to arrive gets to use a T-bar provided, but all other teams must come up with other solutions to navigate the line across. Once they arrive in Machu Picchu, the first team to locate the golden treasure wins immunity. The biggest supposed risk is interaction with the Zing-Zings, as we see Team Amazon get captured by them, but we later learn that they're just actors and don't pose an actual threat. That being said, 18 hours in a dangerous forest is not a feat anyone would gladly take on. Just outside the top 3 are the Australia challenges. In the beginning of the challenge, players are tasked with catching an emu and riding it all the way to Hanging Rock. Being fast and crafty birds, this is no picnic. On top of this, the believed 2-hour journey to Hanging Rock is actually a 2-day affair instead, which proves to be a brutal assault on the players.
Make that 2 days!
Once all members of a team have arrived, they must bungee jump one player at a time into a herd of sheep. 3 of the sheep are tattooed with each team's logo, and the teams must shear the sheep to find out if the sheep they grabbed is tattooed. The bungee drop is definitely huge, but we see in the episode that the teens can accidentally grab things that aren't sheep like cacti and dingoes, which adds to the danger. Our bronze medal of Gruesome goes to the Hawaii challenges. Before the official challenge kicks off, a tiebreaker is held to discover who will be going into the final 2 alongside Heather. The challenge consists of using padded batons to knock the opposing player off the platform and into the water. Once this tiebreaker finishes, the final challenge can begin. The main challenge has the final 2 players choose 2 previously eliminated players to be their helpers.
Any enthusiasm for me?
The first task is to build a dummy of the opposing player using pineapple and driftwood, and then they must bring it to the top of the volcano. Whoever finishes first gets a wheelbarrow to help move their dummy, but the other player has to carry theirs. During the journey to the top of the volcano, the final 2 come to a river of lava with stepping stones. Above it is a series of items that can be cut down to hinder the players. The helpers can either cut down the items to slow a player's progress or prevent the opponent's helpers from cutting anything down. Scaling a volcano with a human-sized dummy is a dangerous task, and is made even more dangerous when it's revealed that throwing pineapples into the volcano causes it to erupt. Our silver medal of Gruesome goes to the Transcontinental Challenge. Following the accidental explosion of the train, the final 3 have to travel from Alberta all the way to Tijuana, Mexico by any means necessary. They then must travel by boat to Hawaii, courtesy of the GPS devices he gives them. This challenge is one of the most arduous, as Chris flies off with Chef and basically abandons them in Alberta, expecting them to travel on their own.
It's right on the Mexican border. Now move it!
Cody makes a hot air balloon out of items in the plane wreckage in Sierra's wheelchair, but ends up in a storm that temporarily grounds him. Sierra uses her quick thinking to rig her wheelchair with fireworks to help propel them to the beach. During this time, Heather and Alejandro travel primarily by train, but Alejandro coerces Ezekiel to go after Heather, eventually forcing them to travel by horseback until they reach the boats on the beach. All 3 survive and make their way to Hawaii, but the clear lack of responsibility on Chris's part to make sure they're safe is what makes this challenge so gruesome. Our gold medal of Gruesome goes to the Area 51 challenge. Players start off in a safe area called Area 52 and are challenged to break into Area 51's black box warehouse and bring back an intact working alien artifact. Team Chris is really hot, contends with having to throw rocks to distract the lasers being shot to make it inside. Team Amazon ends up on a minefield and is forced to sing a song while they navigate their way out of it, thanks to Cody using his candy to set off the mines. Once inside the warehouse, they must avoid being caught by Black Ops soldiers or risk having their minds erased or worse.
Oh no! The memory wiper thingy!
Some of the artifacts in the warehouse that are still active can be very dangerous, such as the giant robot that Courtney accidentally activates, or various alien pods with living beings inside them. Their lives are in danger the entire time. As it's clear, the government would rather eliminate potential threats than just remove them from the premises, making this challenge the most gruesome. And that's the list. Which Season 3 challenge do you think was the most gruesome? Let us know in the comments below, and as always, stay wicked.